Hello there friends, Mr. E here, and wouldn't you say it's a glorious day in the service of the Omnissiah? I sure would, because in my personal opinion, it has been more or less conclusively revealed that this summer's update will give us the 7th character class for Darktide, and that character class will be AdMech. Yeah, I'm not clickbaiting. I seriously mean this. I'm saying it with like 99% certainty, and I'm going to put all the puzzle pieces for you together for you today, including a new datamine that many of you may have seen, and some information that I don't think any of you have seen, because I think I might be one of the only people who reads shit. So yeah, we'll get into all that and more. If this is completely out of left field for you, if you had no idea that Darktide was getting a new character class, well, I'll catch you up on all that too. Sounds like you should probably subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on Darktide stuff. I got you on that front. Big shout out, thank you to all of my subs and especially my members, and extra especially my best friends who are Lisi and Neva and Sai. Thank you so much for your continued patronage and support. I love you. Okay, let's get into things. Let's start with the basics, the fundamentals. How do we know we're getting a new class, and how do I know when it's going to be? In January, about the third week of January, Fat Shark put out a summarizing 2026 post saying that, hey, we had a great year, and guess what? Our 7th playable character class is already well underway. We're almost done. We can't wait to show you what we got. However, there's another update before that. And the update before that just came out like 2 weeks ago. That was the Beyond the Hive update. So the next update, the next major update, which will be in summer, is going to be this 7th class. Now, last year was the Arbites in that summer update, and that was the single biggest concurrent player count the game has had since launch. 44,000 or so people were playing at one time, and that dwarfed the size of the Hive Scum. Because not that like Arbites is like that much more of like a known property. Like Gangers and Arbites, you know, they're about like similar stature, I think, but there was a bigger stage, and that stage is called Warhammer Skulls because it was announced at Warhammer Skulls, which is a massive platform where many people who had probably never seen Darktide before or had written it off and not thought about it for years, they saw it and they were like, oh shoot, I should play that. And that's why that was such a huge update for the game. That's why it like reinvigorated it. And that is a huge prospect for this year. Fat Shark, you know, fundamentally, practically, they would be fools to not have their biggest update of the year be this summer update, because it is going to get the largest spotlight they'll have a chance at getting. It's going to get the most press possible because it's going to be on a worldwide stage at Warhammer Skulls. So what I'm thinking is Warhammer Skulls, big reveal, AdMech class. And everyone wanted AdMech. That's another big reason why I suspected AdMech this year, is because, yeah, everyone wanted AdMech. They were clamoring for it, and it was Hive Scum, and everyone was really mad. And so I think if you're just looking at it from a business perspective, Fat Shark has got to be insane to not produce the thing that people told them were basically saying, take my money, shut up and take my money at them. So over the winter as well, we had a little bit of a data mine, which I'll put on the table, or the table on the screen now, which is this. This came out, and I made a video on it at the time saying that, hey, this word right here, this is one of the new archetypes. We have Adamant, which is the Arbites, we have Broker, which is the Hive Scum, and then Cryptic, which is TBD, that's our 7th class. So cryptic can mean a lot of things, but it means mysterious, it means arcane, you know, sort of unknown, mysterious. We'd already said that. But yeah, to me, when I read into that, I said, okay, it's already very likely that we're going to be seeing AdMech of some sort. And it's called the Cult Mechanicus for a reason, right? They have arcane knowledge. They have secret rituals. They are a very insular and tight-knit group that protects their secrets. So Cryptic does fit with AdMech. And so entering into the spring, that was really all the information we had so far. Then the new update came out, the Beyond the Hive update, and I took to doing something that a friend of the channel, Joe Plays Games, taught me to do, which is read the descriptions on items, on cosmetic items. So I started reading through the cosmetic items that were added for the penances in the game. And one of them I stumbled across was these Psyker pants right here, these brown Psyker pants. They read, these Deadsiders seem unusually adept at tinkering. I've never seen one demonstrate any ability in this area, but their trinkets speak for themselves. So, isn't that curious that these people, these Deadsiders, these like humble people who live inside these technologically advanced bunkers in the middle of a blasted, irradiated wasteland, and just happen to have, like, they're taking raw scrap, and then it's just magically converting into these, bombs and stuff. How are they doing this? Who knows? And at that point, 2 weeks ago when it's released, I was like, okay, well, that's just kind of a wink and a nod. You'd think, all right, well, they probably are learned a trick or two. They're probably sitting on a big stockpile of some sort of like old AdMech gear. Maybe we're looking at like a tech adept or something like that, like someone who learned a lot from, maybe they're not necessarily adeptus mechanicus, but they learned a lot from it. Then another week went by, and last week they added this pair of pants to the Psyker. This is a new penance cosmetic called the same thing, but Fireways came out. Surely they've merely scavenged these devices from the Great Ruins. That's the only explanation. Only the Adeptus Mechanicus has that kind of knowledge. Okay. So if you don't see what's going on here, surely they've merely scavenged these devices in the Great Ruins. That's the only explanation, which should let you know in 2 short sentences that this explanation is incorrect, right? Only the Adeptus Mechanicus has the knowledge to put this stuff together. They aren't just scavenging these devices. Even this person doubts it when they say it. These people are AdMech. These people have the knowledge. And if you have the knowledge, you're part of the cult. You're part of Cult Mechanicus. You can't know how to do, Mechanicus stuff without being in the group. You got the secret passcodes. So these people, these humble Deadsiders, whoever they are by some standard AdMech. They are associated with the cult, and they have the secret arcane knowledge. And the question would become, I think, for a lot of players, like, okay, why are they here? Why are they in these blasted out like bunkers in the middle of the wasteland? Why are we out here in the wasteland anyway? All these things tie together, and there's lots and lots of little cryptic hints, between all these things, including one on right here. We've got, what mysteries lie buried beneath the sands? I wonder about that. What cryptic mysteries lie buried beneath the sands? What are we digging for out here? And what the AdMech were after at some point is shared with us on this little piece. Although this is a known piece of lore, but your dreams are disturbed by flashing images of gargantuan machines devouring entire mountain ranges, great mechanical jaws gorging on the planet's crust in search of blood-red ore. So that blood-red ore they're talking about there, that's Mobian iron. The core element that is then alloyed and used to create Mobian steel, which you've probably heard about a few times in Darktide's narrative. That Mobian steel is very important to ongoing war efforts and just sort of production efforts around the Imperial system. This is the only planet, Atoma Prime, where we are currently stationed, is the only planet that provides this resource to the Imperium of Man. And so, you know who's going to have a real big vested interest in protecting this and exploiting it? Well, it's the Adeptus Mechanicus. They are going to be all over that shit, because this is how you get yourself one step closer to the Omnissiah, is you get this exclusive resource and use it to produce better machinery, better armor plating, which is specifically what Mobian steel is really good for, as they've explained in the past. I think Hadron goes on some tangent about how it's like 23% better or something at armor plating on Lehman Russes. So this is a very important resource, and it makes 100% sense that the AdMech would have a presence here. And because this is such an important resource, this is like the reason, one of the primary reasons why Atoma Prime became the prime that it is. It is the capital city, it's like the head city within the system, because this resource is so important. So the AdMech has a massive presence, or, allegedly should have a massive presence on this planet, because it is a forge world. And forge worlds have AdMech on them because they're forge worlds, they're creating stuff. And forge worlds need protection, because AdMech are kind of like the little nerds, right? They're just teching up, they're do the mining and grow the tech tree, but they're kind of defenseless on their own. However, they have a little bit of a little bit of defense on their side, and those are the Skitarii. So Skitarii are these lovely fellas. These guys are more or less super soldiers that the AdMech creates. Now, how they create them is a guarded secret, Again, these secrets of the cult are showing up, but more or less, these people are, transhuman. They have been augmented, they've been disassembled and put back together, and they serve the cult mechanicus. They are there in defense of Forge worlds. So, one of the first and most notable Forge worlds that they're deployed to is the Forge world of Mars, in our solar system. So, yeah, the Skitarii would be present if the Admech were present, because where the Imperium of Man goes, its enemies will follow. And Atoma Prime is on the edge of Imperial space in fighting off against the Darktide, as they colloquially call it. That's where the name comes from. So yeah, there's a very, very strong interest in having this place be well defended and not having it fall into the wrong hands, because it's a very valuable resource for a variety of reasons. So it would make 100% sense that we would see not only the Admech presence on the planet, but that they would then be backed up by Skitarii. So this is why many players were saying, Skitarii could be potentially here. And then yesterday happened, and someone did a little bit of data mining, and that's when this came out. And so the secret is, I guess a little bit of an open secret now, because not only does it say Power Maul P3 and Power Sword P3 here, which we'll get to in a second, but it says Transonic Sword, Transonic Knife P1 Deluxe 01. Okay, I mean, listen, Thatchar, I was having fun with like the cryptic thing and the adamant and broker. Like, I felt so clever. And then you put this in your files. Transonic Sword, Transonic Knife, Deluxe 01. So like, this is a skin. These are skins, by the way. Because you like see skin right here. So deluxe skins. You know what gets deluxe skins? It's new classes. You couldn't even confuse this for being something that's getting added to an existing class. Not that you really could anyway, because of course transonic weapons are a specialized type of weapon utilized by the warriors of the Skitarii legions of the adeptus mechanicus, right? So it is specifically something that is only known to be used by Skitarii within the Adeptus Mechanicus. And even more specifically, when we talk about transonic weapons, they are used by these guys, these Sicarian Ruststalkers, who are more or less like bloodthirsty, blood-crazed assassin types. They have been disassembled part by part, then reassembled, and then driven mad by their cursed transhuman existence, and then they are just let loose on their enemies. And they are an assassin type of archetype, which it would really fit with what a lot of players have been demanding for a long time, which is a specific assassin archetype within the game. Not like a zealot type, but like an actual, fast, everything or nothing, stealthy type assassin. So yeah, that would be super hype if we got that. And would you know it, transonic weapons fit perfectly with this. And transonic weapons, by the way, these attune to the frequency of whatever armor you're against, and then they basically just pass through between the atoms. So carapace armor, just right through like a hot knife through butter, allegedly. So what, it's like uncanny strike on these? What do you want to bet? So that is what was Datamined. And also these Power Maul and Power Sword. If we look at the Power Sword, if we look at the Skitarii, they have all their weapons, their general weapons. They have a completely massive arsenal because they're incredibly versatile. That's one of their things. They are created by the Admech, and so they can be created for really any sort of battle. They can be ranged, they can be melee, they can and very often are outfitted to survive in very extreme environs, including toxic and irradiated worlds, because oftentimes the Admech's efforts collapse the ecosystems of the worlds, as we discovered on this planet. So they will be able to survive in these blasted wastelands and do the fighting they need to do. And they've got the Power Sword here as one of their weapons. There are, you can find weapons that they use that are like the Power Maul. So perhaps we were getting also a mace style weapon with the class. That'd be pretty cool. Just so you are clear here, P1, typically the P refers to the model of that thing. So there are two other P versions of these. P1 and P2 of the Power Maul. P1 is the Ogryn's Slab and Shield. P2 is the Ogryn's Power Maul, you might expect, right? The P1 Power Sword is the Veteran Power Sword. The P2 Power Sword is the Power Falchion. So this could be a weapon that's not for our Skitarii coming, or this could be an exclusive weapon to them. It remains to be seen, because it can exist across classes as well. So yeah, these all 100% point to getting a Skitarii with at least a Skitarian Ruststalker sort of archetype within it, which would be fucking sick. So the question becomes this, and this is where I'll re-enter into a more speculative framework. If we're getting this class, how is it being tied into the story? Is there any other like evidence to point to this being the case? Other than, I mean, this is pretty like, you know, hard and fast, right? You can't really deny that. But I have even more evidence that I got by, you know, when you know it, reading, that I think just makes this so concrete. And this is my speculation, but I think this is exactly how they're going to tie it into the story. So I just started reading items again, item descriptions again, and we got this one. This is a helm, one of the new helms on the Veteran for completing the Expeditions game mode. Some tell of an old scroll deep in the Mobian regimental archive that describes an entire Imperial Knight household marshalling for war outside the walls of Tertium. Okay, and then the follow-up here on the Cities of Death camo version of that same helmet. The household's name is said to be illegible on the scroll, and no other records match its details. However, the seals in the document suggest its provenance to be sound. So this is letting you know this isn't bullshit. This is real. This is a real thing. Why would they include this in here? Who are the Imperial Knights? Well, these are the Imperial Knights. These are the Imperial Knights, right? They are de facto adeptus mechanicus, because you have to be adeptus mechanicus to fuse, to basically like fuse your consciousness to one of you know, these things, these massive machines, and bond with the machine spirit within. So this, by the way, this is not going to be in the game, right? These are 40 feet tall. As you can see, these are Space Marines. A little bit of a height diff there. So yeah, you're not going to get one of those in the game, but what this could be saying, and I think is very likely is saying, is there is a knight somewhere out there who is mounting for an assault or like an offensive against the walls of Tertium to either retake and reclaim, or to claim for the first time and control the resources thereof. Because, I mean, it's a very important sort of resource outpost. You don't want to lose it. And if you are an Imperial Knight, what are you marshaling, right? You're marshaling for war. You're building your legions. What are your legions of? Your legions are of Skitarii. So these, I'm thinking that is what we are doing out here, right? The admonition are onto something, as are our masters on the Morningstar. They're onto something. Hadron knows what we're out here looking for. There is evidence. There's something pointing them towards, I would suspect, a hidden enclave where these guys are doing that mustering for war, are building their legions. And whoever gets to it first and says, hey, we're the good guys, you know, join with us. I don't think it'll go so well for the Cult of Admonition, but maybe they want to get to it and disrupt it and isolate them before they can join ranks with us. Be hard pressed to see how, you know, they would square off against a legion of Skitarii, but that is, I believe, what we're searching for. We're searching for a way to contact this family and reach out to them. Because right now, we're dealing with people who are cult associated. The people in the sanctuaries are associated with the admonition, or not admonition, but they're associated with the admex, but they are probably not like leadership. They don't have the juice that we're looking for. We are trying to track these guys down, because these guys are the ones that want to side with us and secure Tertium, and that will be the thrust for the summer update, I imagine. So there you go, guys. That is my little bit of a theory crafting at the end there. Hopefully that makes sense, and all the evidence that could ever support that we are getting Skitarii, or at least admech of some sort, in the summer. And if you are interested, you know, as far as when this will be released, last year, the Skulls, the Warhammer Skulls happened in like mid-May, and then the release of the class was on June 11th. So I would expect probably a pretty similar timetable for this year. So that is very, very exciting that we are less than 3 months away from potentially being able to play as Skitarii in the game. And I, for one, am pretty thrilled. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is it convincing? Are you hyped? And I'll see you real soon. Mystery out. Bye-bye.